What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the AFC podcast. I'm your host, Phil Cappadora. It's nice to see here and be notified from you all again. I really hope you guys like the episodes we're doing because, I'm enjoying these conversations, these filmmakers, these actors, these writers, these producers. They're really good. And if you haven't already, check out the playlist of all the Triborough film festivals on what their movies are and look like to get to follow up and see their movie probably on a streaming platform eventually, if not already. Today, I got another very special guest. His name is Harry, and Harry has a movie in the Triborough Film Festival called Enter the Room. And we're going to be doing a quick interview with him for the next hour or so, and you're going to get to know him. He's going to get to know me. And at the end of it, who knows? We'll probably end up working on a movie set one day. What's going on, Harry?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm happy to have you, dude. All right, Harry, I guess we'll start from the very beginning. Where are you from?
Yeah, so grew up in Queens, New York, but spent the most of my childhood in the New Jersey area. So New Jersey, New York City is an area I'm very comfortable with, spent a lot of time in, and yeah, it's been great out there. Yeah, no complaints.
Oh, good. So, yeah, believe me, if you did complain, nobody would care.
Yeah.
And I was curious, did you always want to be a filmmaker, writer, director when you were growing up?
So no, actually, yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. It was a bit of a road to get here. I've always been a huge fan of movies. One of my oldest memories, actually a few. Maybe my earliest memory was watching Home Alone 2 when the character, I believe it was Harry or Marv. I haven't watched the movie in many years, but when he's like, I think it was Harry, he's like he's jumping across something and he tries to jump onto this ladder and there's like some green goop and he goes flying off it. That is one of my very oldest memories. But another memory I had very early was Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is still one of my favorite films. I probably first watched the film when I was 4 years old or so, and I love the whole thing, love it to this day. But I was particularly obsessed with the opening scene, particularly when the boulder is chasing Indiana. And I
Yeah.
like that scene so much that I actually would, when I go to my aunt's place over the holidays, I would reenact it. I would take like some like bouncy balls that like they had in the house and I would like pretend I was Indiana Jones and I'd run down the stairs and have them chase me. So I I had a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, anyway, so fast forwarding a little bit, I've always loved movies. Started off with, I mean, I still love a lot of blockbusters to this day, but I've definitely expanded my horizons a bit. I kind of started with the blockbusters and then high school, college, kind of just started watching anything with a pulse that looked like it interested me. So while I always was really passionate about movies and movies was a big part of my life, I would say I got it a little from my grandpa where I was a little more practical minded with career, where I thought, you know,
Yeah.
I was a 2 + 2 = 4 kind of guy, which, he had a great influence on my life, most generous person I've ever met. And he didn't per se put any pressure on me, but he kind of guided me in the direction of studying business, which, I am glad I studied business in college just because it taught me how to be a leader. It's especially helped with me producing my films, but the actual content of it really didn't interest me very much, particularly accounting and finance, which I just find to be very tedious. Um, but yeah, so I think when my eyes were first open was in college. My junior year of college, I took this personal essay class and I took it as a filler. And I took it because I thought it was going to be easy. Few of my friends had taken the class with the same professor and they warned me like, no, this is not an easy class. Like you're really going to have to work to get a good grade. So I thought, oh, great, I screwed up. But what actually ended up happening was not only did I end up doing very well in the class, particularly my first paper, which we literally just we read a bunch of different excerpts and would analyze them, and then throughout the semester we had to read or we had to write three different personal stories. It didn't feel like work to me. It was just so much fun, and the teacher really liked them. I ended up doing way better in the class than I thought. And unlike so many of the business classes I had, I would wake up in the morning excited to go to this class. And that was kind of the first time I questioned if business was really what was for me. Um,
Mhm.
So anyway, fast forward to I'm getting ready to graduate. I have under a semester left, and I had kind of had these fantasies in my head of like I would get a marketing job and somehow it would transition to film, but it just didn't really make sense. And that was when the idea kind of started to pop in my head. So anyway, I have this dream, and it's this was the most vivid dream I've ever had, and I tend to remember my dreams a lot, but this one I'll never forget. It was in the winter of my second semester of senior year of college, and it nothing crazy happened in it. It was just I was a film student at a prestigious film school. I was going to various classes, like gearing up to make a film with like some of my uh, fellow students, and the dream just felt so real, and it felt so real that when I woke up, I didn't realize it was a dream. I actually put on my jacket, my backpack, was getting ready to go to cinematography 101 or whatever. And I opened the door and I suddenly realized, it's Saturday, it's 11:30. You're at a bar with your friends last night. You're not going to cinematography 101. You're not a film student. You're not studying film. You're not going to be in the film industry. I guess you're going to have a, business job, marketing maybe that you don't really care about too much. And I kind of just stopped dead in my tracks. And that was maybe the single worst feeling I ever had in my life. It was quite the gut punch. So I sit down on my bed. I kind of just stare at my wall. It felt like 20 minutes. And finally a light bulb comes on in my head and I realize, I was 21 at the time. It would have been great if I had figured out that I wanted to be a filmmaker before I went to college, because actually I went to Ithaca College in upstate New York. They apparently have a very good film program, but I was studying business there. But anyway, I figure I still have a large chunk of my life left. So I basically, when I got out of college, I made this plan. I'm going to, get a finance job to pay the bills during the day. And at night, I'm going to just do mass research on filmmaking, start going to networking events. Yeah, and I mean that there were a lot of steps after that, but that basically slowly led to me making Bay for Blood, Enter the Room, a couple shorts I made that I'm very fond of, and
Okay.
and then I ended up leaving finance a number of years ago, and now I'm working in video production full time, and I'm definitely in a much better headspace now than I was a number of years ago. So yeah,
I had a similar beginning because I was a business major in community college before I took my first acting class.
nice.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's just like you're gonna figure out life, and then all of a sudden life kind of just finds a way. And I did like how you brought back Home Alone 2, like, because your name is Harry, and it's like, oh, he's a baby. He likes a guy because it's like, hey, that's my name. And then a glob of goo just falls on your head, and it's like, is that gonna happen to me one day? You never
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. But yeah, no, that's awesome though. Good to hear.
Yeah, dude. And so yeah, life does find a way. And so you did Bay for Blood as well as Enter the Room?
That is correct. Yeah, thanks again for having me at the festival last year for Bay for Blood, and
You did.
it's
Okay, so last year was Bay for Blood because I saw it pop up today on my feed, and I'm like, hey, is that here this year? No, that was last year, right?
yeah, no, and I had a blast screening at the festival last year, and I'm looking forward to screening Enter the Room this year.
I
So
remember girls had to leave because they were scared. Like,
yeah,
I remember they were the not to throw them under the bus, but they were other filmmakers from the previous segment, and they were like Bay for Blood, and already they were nervous. And I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong with this movie. It's just a title. And they're like, we don't even want to risk it. We're scared. Yeah, you graduated college. What do you mean you're scared? I'm not going to put you in. There's no scary movies in this. If I watched it, there's no scary movies. But they sucked it up. Sorry that two of them left, but I thought we
no,
actually
it's
a really decent turnout last year.
Yeah, no, it was a great turnout. Yeah, no, and I mean, no worries. And the title can be a little intimidating. I've joked with because I've had at screenings, I've had a few people ask me where I came up with the title, and the title is more a metaphor for someone out for revenge. Because as you've seen, it's not actually that bloody of a film, but I think the blood in the title, people assume really bloody horror film, where of course it's really more of a psychological character study. But yeah.
I noticed I could actually comment a little bit more because now I see the connection with these two films because there is an approach to how you're shooting these angles and making sure your actors hit their mark on stopping where they're actually telling the story, not just by delivering the line, but when and where in the frame they're actually saying it, you know? And I just
Yeah.
like now like there is that suspense to it. Then I see the consistency in the pattern, but holy shit, dude, do we got to get you some better equipment?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And especially I don't have the film background. I was these were minimal budgets, so they particularly with Enter the Room, I'm so happy with the performances and the how the story came together. But of course, actually that apartment I'm still living in, I've spiced it up a little. I've at least had people tell me it's made me feel a little better that the sort of plain bleak looking setting in the beginning, it's kind of jarring, but as you see these two brothers kind of grinding and it turns into this almost kind this nightmare that I've at least been told tonally it ends up being okay in the end, but it is something that when I was starting to, screen the Enter the Room in particular around that, I see some of these films and the settings are just gorgeous and everything, looks
Sure.
great, that it definitely could be a little intimidating, but yeah, definitely.
Well, when I think of Indiana Jones and Home Alone, and now that I kind of just see these two, where it's like there's a bit of a suspense, it's dialogue, male drama. There's always some sort of internal conflict that these characters seem to be going through all the time. Do you put yourself in your characters, or is this just like your style of writing?
Oh, absolutely. My films, even though they get a little hyper stylized, a little crazy at points, they really, as I mentioned earlier, I would say that I do focus on story first, but my stories really revolve around my characters. And I usually have at least one character, Brian in Enter the Room, the crazy brother, or James in Bay for Blood, the, crazy guy. I have one character where there's either pieces of myself injected into them, or pieces of people I've met. And actually, a fun fact about Enter the Room was that the relationship between Brian and Jeremy is loosely based on a relationship I had with a roommate when I was in college.
Oh
Um,
shit.
yeah, and fun fact, actually, a lot of the things, not all of them, but many of the things that Brian accused Jeremy of were actual things my roommate accused me of. So things got pretty ugly. We only lived together for about a semester, and then it ended up being okay after. But it was unpleasant living with him, but I'm glad I did because if I didn't, this story never would have happened.
No, I did. I remember like when I had roommates like 10 years ago, like it was there were definitely stories to be told because we were all like actors, filmmakers, storytellers, artists, creatives. Somehow it managed to just work out really well where like there was very minimum to no butting heads unless I was the one creating the drama because it was like too peaceful or something like that. But just like those days and those stories contributing to what would have made a really good scene or a movie down the road, I think was like a real valuable takeaway as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now that you're no longer having roommates, you're kind of moving out on your own, doing like living life. Where you at?
Yeah, so now I'd mentioned I'm at heart I'm a New York City, Jersey guy. I actually am out in Chicago now, but Jersey, I'm gonna be
What?
home. I'm literally gonna be home on Thursday. I visit so my parents still live in New Jersey. So I am in the New Jersey, New York City area. I'd say particularly since the festival stuff, about once a month on average. It's still Chicago's my home, but the Jersey, New York City, that's always going to be my home too. So yeah, I actually have a couple festivals coming up this weekend, one in New York City and then one in New Jersey. So I'm looking forward to flying back in Thursday and then staying till Monday night. So yeah, it's yeah, my a lot of my family's out from the Northeast, which is where I mentioned I'm regularly, and then a lot of my mom's family actually is out in the Midwest. So I see them semi-regular. But yeah.
Oh, okay. So you got the holidays coming up, and you're just kind of going around visiting family back and forth.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, actually, right after right after I go home this weekend, my mom, dad, and sister are going to be coming out to Chicago because we all meet in the suburbs where one of my aunts lives. So I'll be seeing them in Jersey this weekend, and then just a few days later, I'll be seeing my mom again, and then my dad and sister shortly after. So should be nice. I'm looking forward to it.
I think one of our original come to the club for dinner guys in the early days was Dan, And he got nominated for an actor award last film festival last year. I'm almost 100% sure that he said he was raised in the Chicago area.
Oh, nice. Good to know.
Well, I mean, like everybody is a handshake away, man. Like at this point in the last 5 years, you're meeting people from all over the country and now parts of the world, and it's like, hey, I know a guy from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially the festival stuff. I've met people from halfway across the world, and I'm just like so impressed that they're making it out all the way to the festival. But yeah, definitely.
Well, how many film festivals would you say that you've been a part of?
So it's been between Enter the Room and Bay for Blood. I could try to estimate it. So I started doing, oh man, I started doing the festivals like 2023. And with Enter the Room and Bay for Blood, they're gonna kind of be wrapping up. We'll see. I'm hoping to wrap them up this summer. I may have a few going on into the fall of 2024. But yeah, I've probably been to over 30 in the last couple of years. It's been quite the adventure. It's been super fun. It's been a bit exhausting. But more often than not, I've had a lot of fun. Like I said, I had a blast at your festival last year. I've been fortunate enough actually, even though I'm in Chicago now, I must be a New Jersey, New York City guy at heart because that's where I've been to festivals all over the country. My films seem to do the best in the Northeast. I've noticed that for sure. And
All
it's
right.
nice because my parents live there. So yeah, a large chunk of the festivals I've been to have kind of been in the either Jersey, New York City area, or I've been to quite a few in Pennsylvania too. So it's been great.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And do you have anything like maybe down the line in the chamber that you're getting ready to prepare, shoot, write?
Oh, absolutely. Things are a little hectic. They've been pushed back a little because of the festival stuff. I'm not complaining. I did not realize how much of my time, no regrets, but I didn't realize how time consuming, especially because, I have a couple films going to festivals. But yeah, so what I'm working on now is I actually have a feature film, The Corridor Crossing, which is my debut feature film. An absolute blast to make. Another film that's very personal to me, but in addition to it being a psychological thriller, there's a bit of a sci-fi twist to it. But yeah, I mean, it's in post-production. It's been in post for a while. It's starting to come together nicely. It definitely I still need to hire a composer. I still have the temp score on. I'm getting pretty close to that. And the color and audio definitely need to be cleaned up. I need to put some finishing touches on it. But so I don't have a date on when it's going to be finished, but once that's finished, I'm really looking forward to submitting that out to a lot of festivals. In addition to that, I have another feature film in Cautious, which is actually, as the recurring theme I mentioned, a lot of stuff is loosely based on past experiences, very loosely based on a couple of friends I had growing up. We all lived on a cul-de-sac. We ran around, played a lot of sports, did a lot of, did some, nothing crazy, but did some things that little dumb kids do. And it's basically just going to be following a couple families and sort of their children and sort of all the crazy stuff they get caught up in. So that one I've finished outlining it. I've kept wanting to write the script, but things have just been a little hectic. So I'm really going to try to put my foot down, write the script this winter, spring, get the shot list looking good, and then hopefully I can have that one into production next fall. And yeah, the very last project I have is this short animated film called Slivered. So I've mentioned a lot of live action films, and while a lot of my favorite films are live action films, I'm actually a pretty big animation junkie. Whether it's a cartoon, TV show, anime, a lot of especially Pixar films in the early 2000s. There's so many animated films that I absolutely adore. So my dad actually is an artist. He doesn't have much experience in animation, but he had done this one animated project back in college, and he kept kind of bringing it up like, oh yeah, I really missed doing that. And I had already had these ideas swirling in my head. So we came up with this idea for this film called Slivered, just going to be this micro short, probably just going to be a couple minutes long.
I'm
Oh,
glad.
sorry.
No, no, no. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just
Oh,
took a quick look at your segment because when you mentioned that you liked animation, I learned a lot about animation. I just did an interview with Connor, who has an animation in the film festival, but he's in the segment after you. But
gotcha.
there's actually a very good animation right after yours called Mistletoe. And I just wanted to like when you mentioned you liked it, I'm like maybe he'll get a chance to see at least one of them, and you do. You're gonna I like your style, and I think when you watch Mistletoe, I think you're gonna like it. It's a very good animated film.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to checking it out
The
then.
trailer is online. The trailer's on YouTube. You got to watch all these trailers, man.
Okay, cool. I definitely will do. But yeah, so yeah, what I was saying with this, just to give a little background on the idea, it's basically just a metaphor for having a tough time finding the right fit. It kind of stemmed from why I'm very happy in general with my lead actors and actresses for my films. It's, as anyone who's ever casted, it can be a lot of work. You can see a lot of people, and what happens, sometimes the audition's not the best, but what's happened to me a lot is someone comes in and they're amazing and they're just not the right fit. And it's frustrating because I'm thinking, well, if this person come in for me at a different time, I could have maybe cast them in that role. Anyway, so it's going to be this kind of crazy director, and it's this sort of comedy horror fantasy where it's this monster running around in this underground sewer.
Embark on your unique financial journey with Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union. Your aspirations, your milestones. We're committed to guiding you every step of the way. Whether you're saving for a dream home, planning for retirement, or seeking to consolidate debt, trust MHV to provide personalized solutions tailored to your needs. Our comprehensive range of products and services, coupled with expert financial advice, empowers you to make informed decisions and achieve your goals. Visit us online at mhvfcu.com to discover the tools and resources available to help you navigate your financial landscape with confidence and clarity. Your journey starts here.
And he's kind of this goofy, comedic, but sort of pitiful monster. And there's this pile of keys, and he's running around and he's trying to jam the key in this big doorway, and nothing's working, nothing's opening. Finally, when he's sort of done freaking out about that, it cuts to the director, and it's showing that this is kind of what's going on in the director's mind while he's struggling to find the appropriate actor or actress for their respective roles. So yeah, it's going to be very different from what I'm used to making. I'm used to making these very dialogue heavy, character driven films that don't necessarily have the visual flair. So, and of course with animation, it's the visuals become almost everything. So it's going to be quite the 180 for me. Yeah, I mean, it's been really fun making it with him. It's definitely, we don't have professional animation experience, so it's taken a lot longer than I'd hoped. But because I'm so busy with everything else, it hasn't been a huge deal, but we're slowly getting there. And yeah, once that film's done, which that will probably be a while, but I will definitely be submitting that to festivals too. So yeah, so those are basically the projects I'm working on now.
Okay. I mean, well, I thought I had a plate full. You got, yeah, like I got this, but I just took another look at your segment, and it's you got a good hour, almost a good hour and a half worth of stuff, and it looks like there's like 7 or 8 like decent shorts. One a little bit heavier, but they're all related in tone, maybe not so much theme, but that vibe and that feeling of a little bit of suspense and thriller, not horror, but it's all like in that general direction, where it's actually like a whole collage of style, all of which that you guys happened to share throughout this entire segment. It was just pure luck on how it just kind of fell into place. But yeah, if you got business cards, come to Network, because that guy who did this animation, who they're escaping my name. Their name is escaping my mind. Network, man. See if you could collaborate, because that one guy, Connor in particular, he actually teaches animation.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Yeah. Like we were talking about, I'll definitely, I'll check out the trailer on the website, and I'm looking forward to checking out this film. Like I said, animation, I'm a huge fan, and I love seeing, whether it's indie animation or whatever, sounds awesome.
Sweet, dude. Oh man. Not that I'm burnt out, but it's like, now that we know what's, what you're doing and what's happening next, what makes you, I guess, like want to pursue this and continue? I don't want to say like ever have a plan B or anything like that, but no, I don't really quite believe in that. But what is it about this that you just, that makes you keep coming back and wanting to do more of it?
Yeah, of course. Good question. It's it's a few things. I think that I was a little nervous when I started making films, especially before I made Bay for Blood and Enter the Room. I actually made this. It was more this amateur film. It was a blast to make, but it was not something I was submitting to festivals. I kind of just made it for me. It was this film called 515, which I shot completely by myself. And there were a lot of, it all takes place in one day. There were constant continuity errors. So I was having to reshoot, and I'd had the full-time insurance job. So I was really just shooting it on weekends, which I guess so generally I shoot my films on weekends. Anyway, yeah, I was nervous that I wasn't going to like the process, and that this had kind of been a dream of mine for a number of years before I started doing it. But fortunately I found that most of the process I really enjoyed, and the majority of it I liked more than I thought. I actually, even though I mentioned being stressed by auditioning, I actually do enjoy holding auditions, which I know is not always common for filmmakers. I love writing. That's something I never get tired of. And the biggest surprise with this film 515 was when I started editing it. I had no editing background, no film school. I just thought editing was something that was going to be really tedious, boring. I mean, it definitely can be tedious, particularly in the beginning, but seeing it come to life, particularly when I started to inject the music into it, add some color, cut everything together, have the pacing, how I envisioned it. It was just, it was one of the most eye-opening moments to me. So I'd say that it's a couple things. One, it's just so much fun. Two, I'm generally in a better mood when I have a film in production. I'm doing great now, but since it's been a little while. This feature film, I didn't shoot that recently. It's been in post for a while. Doing the festivals has been great, but it doesn't give me that same level of energy that I get from actually having a film in production. So generally I'm in a happier headspace, and I would just say overall the level of satisfaction. With these films, Bay for Blood and Enter the Room, the process is what I enjoy the most, but actually seeing it when it's starting to come together in post and thinking like, oh, like this might work. Because of course, that's every filmmaker's fear for a huge part of the process, or I assume a lot of filmmakers' fears. You don't get all the shots that, whether it goes wrong with the actor, actress, location. I mean, a million things can go wrong, and things always do. But there's always that fear that the film just comes out nothing like how you initially envisioned. So when the film, even if it's not fully there, when it's close enough and I feel like, oh yeah, like this could work, that level of self-satisfaction and accomplishment, I've never gotten that feeling from anything that's come even close to what I get from film. So yeah, I mean, with film, it's overall, of course, I'd love to make a living, because I do video production, but I'm more doing post-production for a wedding company. That's where the majority of my income comes. So sure, I would love to make an actual living just from the filmmaking, but I just love doing it so much. It energizes me, and it gives me that level of self-satisfaction that I would need something pretty crazy to happen to me, knock on wood, for me to even consider stopping anytime soon. And as I mentioned, my morale goes down after I go too long without making a film. That's where I mentioned I'm really hoping I can get this next feature into production next fall, because I might go a little crazy next year if I don't get that started done. So
I can kind of relate a little bit, like, especially when it comes to like feeling that sense of accomplishment when you get it all out of your head and you can see it. And I'm like, I knew I wasn't crazy. And you prove it to yourself. And also you get to actually watch something. Billy Wilder said something when I was going to college. I learned a lot about director Billy Wilder. Is that he said he said a couple things. He says, if you don't believe in miracles, then you're not a realist. And he also said that he made movies that he would want to see or like to see or wanted to watch. And the guy had a fantastic resume, and he almost did before he died. He almost directed Schindler's List, but I think he passed on it and gave it to Steven Spielberg.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. I mean, he's an amazing filmmaker. I've seen the majority.
I'm almost 100% sure that's the legend of, who directed Schindler's List and who was supposed to do it or things like that. And Billy Wilder, I know before he died, he would actually go and visit on set. And, he took that film very personally, but I think he put it in the right hands. And I can't imagine how differently it would have been, because a lot of Billy Wilder's stuff, from what I remember, I haven't thought about this in almost 10 years. He really found the comedy in the drama of everything. And in something like Schindler's List, I don't see how you could ever make something like that anything close to funny, because like it just wasn't. That was a horrible time in human history, recent history too.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, it would have been interesting. I like to think that he was such a genius that he could have made it work, but it's a good point you bring up because yeah, almost all of his films, I think I've seen, it's been a while. I've probably seen 9 to 12 or so of his films, and almost every single one of them have quite a bit of humor injected into them. So yeah, for
Oh
sure.
yeah. And I will say though, it kind of reminded me real quick because he did do the 7 Year Itch, and that was basically Walter Matthau was supposed to get the lead in the movie, but he didn't get picked. They gave it to somebody else because that guy was the guy who did it on Broadway. Because it was a lot of really good scripts were workshopped and showcased on Broadway, and then they would go up and go on to a larger scale where they could appeal to the masses. And there's such a different way of filmmaking, whether it's in a studio or the camera moves or not, and then Steadicam, all that stuff, as the film industry really evolved on how to tell a story to keep the attention. It was filmed as if it were also a play on the screen, and the lead in the 7 Year Itch was Marilyn Monroe. So naturally, everybody's going to go to the movies and watch Marilyn Monroe. And we had a movie come in this week called, it's either I Heart Marilyn or I Love Marilyn. It's just I Marilyn or something like that, but there's a heart in the title. I'm gonna have to talk to the director and just clarify how do you pronounce this title? Like, what's it supposed to be? And I was actually really blown away because this actress had me believing that she truly believes that she is Marilyn Monroe. And it was literally like I think sort of like not her doppelganger, I forget what you call it, but her archetype where she convinced herself that she is Marilyn Monroe. And man, did that take me back real quick to the 7 Year Itch and just the story of Marilyn Monroe. And the way this was written was like I borderline genius. I know you haven't seen this movie yet, but this is actually a smart movie in a manner of speaking, like some real dialogue where the actors pulled it off, you know? And it just seemed like nobody even knows, like Norma, I think it was Norma Jean is Marilyn Monroe's real name, but she was put into this like classification of I love this woman. Like, and she had a tragic story too, like Schindler's List, there's like comedy and the drama, but not to say that there's a parallel or anything like that, but a lot of things with comedy, it's like the things that are funny are sometimes the thing you see, but the drama is showing the things that you didn't see, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's very interesting for sure.
I kind of went on a rant there for a second. I'm sure when I re-listen to this, I'm gonna try to remember the point I was trying to make. But if you like, there's this one film that you would probably really like, I Heart or I Love Marilyn. It was like even like for your style of like filmmaking, when there's that like rush of what's happening in the room and what is actually happening in this room. I don't know. I feel like I think you might actually really enjoy this.
Okay, great. I'll look it up for sure. That sounds awesome.
Uh, just crash, then just make sure like there's extra seats and just go sneak in.
Absolutely.
So did you have any people maybe coming this year to come and support your movie?
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna have to confirm with them, but I believe the plan is at least one of my parents. I'm gonna see if I can get both of them. I think my dad is gonna come for sure. And then my mom, I'm pretty sure she'll be able to make it. I'll also check with my sister and her husband. They actually, my sister, mom, and dad all came to the last year's for Bay for Blood, so I'm hoping to get at least a couple of them out here again. Should be awesome.
Awesome. Good. I'm glad because I mean, all these movies are pretty creative. Did you have a favorite other than yours, or is something that you really took away from it?
From are you asking from last year's screening? What so I'm trying to. I believe I liked. There were quite a few I liked. I remembered. Actually, I think the first one was animated. and it was a shorter film, but I believe trying to remember if it was a metaphor, but a character.
Love Letters for the Subway?
That sounds right, where the character kind of, what's the word? Like, not dissolve, shrinks into a bottle of liquor, I believe, and is kind of sailing around.
I remember. It's that clay animation.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
I think it was Remember or Member. Oh no. I know exactly the one you're talking about too, because it was nominated for Best Short.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one, especially kind of the way things came together in the end. And then the one that played before mine, I believe mine played later. It was visually gorgeous. I spoke to the filmmaker briefly, trying to remember the name might have been Mars 001. I don't know what
I remember the movie was called Mars.
Okay, or Mars, yeah.
That was oh my God. This is good. Like when you meet 100 filmmakers in a week.
Yeah.
Jeez, and you just try to remember. Yeah, Mars 001. I could always look it up, but
Yeah.
So you were able to get in touch and talk to him?
Yeah, I mean, I follow. I chatted with him for a bit, and we follow each other on Instagram, and we'll like each other's posts some of the times, and yeah, I mean, it's
Yes.
yeah, oh yeah, networking all day.
It's working. Yes. All right. It worked.
Absolutely. But yeah, so I mean, I liked all the films. I'd say those were the two that probably stood out to me the most. But yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the films for sure.
Did you ever have people come up to you and ask you, like, even after the film circuit, like, if they wanted to actually watch your movie down the road, like, what would be the best way to actually have them find it at some point?
Yeah, it doesn't happen to me a lot, but it does happen to me. It does, yeah, hopefully. As you've seen, my stuff is, I make stuff the way I want to make it. It's a little polarizing. So there definitely are some people, particularly with Enter the Room, with Bay for Blood. What was interesting, and actually, it didn't happen often with that, but somebody at the horror festival I mentioned in Virginia actually emailed me this week asking if they could see a copy to the film, and I just shared. I told them it was on the festival circuit, but I just shared a private link to them, so that was super cool. With Enter the Room, though, actually, it's happened a little more. I've definitely noticed some people are just very turned off by it. But there, every festival or two, I may have a person or two who relates, who relates to the whether it's. I've definitely had some guys who've come up to me and said, "Oh yeah, hey, like that reminded me of this roommate I had who I hated or who hated me." So not positive feelings, but I'm glad that they were able to resonate with it. So it's something I've been asked before. It's not super common, but it always feels good. Of course, I make this stuff for me, but at the end of the day, I want it to resonate with others too, of course. So,
well, and for this feature film that you're working on, how long do you think you want it to be?
Yeah, so right now it's just a little under 100 minutes. I am glad I cut it down because I've heard all different things. Like I've heard you'll a minute a page, and I've learned that's not the feature script was initially 78 pages. I cut it down to about 53 and a half. And then once I put everything together for sort of the first decent rough cut, the film was pushing 2 hours and 10 minutes. And
really,
it was, yeah. And I was happy. There's a lot of exposition. There are quite a few montages in the film. So even though, as you've seen with Enter the Room and Bay for Blood, it's very word heavy, but particularly later in the film, the last 30 to 40 minutes or so, there's actually not that much dialogue. So I underestimated how long it was going to be. I was shooting for about an hour and 45 minutes. It's pushing 210. And I felt that the first half dragged a bit. So I ended up cutting a few scenes earlier in the film and just cutting dialogue over and over. And it definitely hurt a little. There was one scene in particular that I cut that I really liked. But getting the film from almost 2 hours and 10 minutes to an hour and 40, I'd sent the rough cut to my mom, and she's more honest, and she thought it was a lot better because it definitely. So yeah, 100 minutes, 90 might have been perfect. but 100 I'm fine with. And it's looking like the cut is pretty close to being done. It's just going to come down to when I get the music on. Things could change a little here and there, but I'm still figuring for it to end around 100 minutes, which I feel pretty good about, as opposed to the 2+ hours just felt a little long to me. So
So this is your first feature to like, really just assemble like a whole story?
yeah, it was crazy. It was not to take anything away from Enter the Room and Bay for Blood. Those films were a lot of work. Bay for Blood, particularly just shooting that stuff outside, that was tough. This film, though, I thought, because yeah, I'm shooting for an hour and 45 minutes, and Enter the Room's 15 minutes, Bay for Blood's 18. I was doing simple math, thinking, oh, will this be like 6-7 times as much work? Felt like 100 times as much work. So there definitely were times where I felt like I was drowning, just being so backed up with stuff. During the shoot, I think that we probably should have scheduled 2 more days. We did 14 days and they were 9 to 10 hour shoots. Probably should have added an hour on or so. Probably should have added at least another day. We miraculously got it done. I think part of it was that I was pretty prepared, and also my cinematographer was just really no nonsense. This guy was as efficient as anyone I've ever worked with. So I think that allowed us to finish on time, even though we did go over a few days for sure. But yeah, it's been amazing. It was just, I'm glad I did it now, because going from the short to the feature, I kind of warn filmmakers, like, be prepared. You might go a little crazy at times when you're doing it, but yeah, I loved making the feature. It's something I want to do more in the future, and now I kind of know what to expect.
Okay, great. And I don't want you to give it away, but I guess when we kind of like calibrated the other films before, are you putting yourself like or past experiences into this film, or is this something maybe a little bit more? Like, what genre would you put it in? And like, did you really put yourself in a feature film, or your style of characteristics into this, your other characters?
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you asked. So before I get into sort of which characters are based on who, the genre, I would say, like Enter the Room and Bay for Blood, it's got that psychological thriller aspect to it, maybe a hint of horror, but it's not very bloody. Actually, there's no blood in the film. There are some characters running around trying to kill each other, but there's no actual blood. But there's a sci-fi hint to it. It deals with a couple, not to give too much away, but basically the 2 main characters find themselves in an alternate universe after walking through this cave. And the whole film, they're trying to figure out how to get back to their universe. So all the characters, whether it's the main character's parents, their other friends, even though they think it's utterly absurd at first, it becomes more and more apparent that this can't be the world they're in. And they basically connected to it must have been when we walked through this cave. To give a little more on the characters, though, yeah, so I would say what's interesting, there are 6 main characters, and the 2 leads, the ones who get stuck in the alternate universe, I've spent a decent amount of time thinking about this. I almost put myself halfway in between both of them. The main character's name is Jake, and I see myself in him when I was younger. He is pretty quiet, not because he doesn't have anything to say, because he's shy, he's uncomfortable in his skin. He is a follower. He hasn't gained that confidence, and that's part of his arc throughout this film, is as things keep going wrong and he fears for his life and finds himself in a situation where he's on his own, he kind of turns into this, I don't want to say hero, but he becomes himself, and he starts to gain that courage and confidence. However, throughout the majority of the film, he does not speak much. So I think of myself when I was younger, especially when I was in bigger settings, maybe not with one of my close friends, where I very much was like Jake. And then Alex, who is kind of the one taking the lead when they're trying to figure out how to get back to their world. He is very talkative. He's very passionate. He's very energetic, which are all characteristics I've been told I have. But as many people have flaws. He can be hot-headed. He can be opinionated. He can be defensive, especially when he's around people he's more comfortable around. And if he feels he's being bullied, he can get a little overly defensive. So yeah, I kind of find myself halfway in between Jake and Alex, which I love both the characters. I've definitely found myself at times, though, being more like the bad side of Alex, and I'm thinking, oh, I should be more like Jake in this situation. So those are the characters I injected the most of myself into. However, what's interesting that I've just learned writing, and I suppose it makes sense when you think about it. All my films, I usually have one or two characters where I really put a lot of myself in them. So with this film, it was Alex and Jake. However, even the other four characters, it's since I'm the one writing it, even so Mike is a third character and he couldn't be more different from how I view myself. He's this taller, better looking, cocky, confident, like very smooth, kind of loose, but also a little insensitive. He was based on some people who I had who were friends in high school, and we were friends, but maybe they were kind of mean to me and gave me a hard time. So I was more like the Alex and they were like the Mike. Even with him, as I've watched the film, I still see little pieces of myself in him, just the way he talks, his mannerisms, his expressions. And I noticed that with the two parents too, particularly the dad. And then there's even a sixth character who's this kind of dark arts specialist who tries helping Jake and Alex get back to their world. She is probably the most different from me, from any character I've ever written. But even when I watch her in the film, I think, oh, like if my headspace was in there, if I was, operating in the dark arts, maybe I would kind of speak like that. So anyway, long answer short, Jake and Alex the most, but a little bit in all of the other characters too.
Very cool. Geez. And just so like the second half of the movie is almost no dialogue. So I assume there's a hunt.
I wouldn't go as far to say the second half without giving too much away. I'll just say,
I know. I hate to not talk.
Oh, no.
That's just like,
no.
we don't want to spoil anything.
No, I'm happy to talk about it. I've had enough conversations about it with others where I sort of know what to include and not. So I would say that there are montages and there is exposition sprinkled throughout the first, I'd say two-thirds to three-quarters. Yeah, no, I'd say two-thirds. The first hour to like hour 10, and then the last half hour. I'll just say this. Jake and Alex think they have a breakthrough moment and there's a climax, and I won't give away what happens, but there's basically in the beginning, it's first them going into the parallel universe, them realizing they're in a parallel universe, them trying to plan how to get out of the parallel universe, it not working, them taking further steps where they finally think they reach a breakthrough, that breakthrough not working out, which is basically the climax of the film. And that's a little over an hour into the film. And after that, Jake and Alex find themselves alone for a lot of the film, and things get pretty chaotic. And that's I think where I missed on estimating how long the film would be based on the script, is that there's a lot of running around. There's some crazy montages. There's a big chase scene. So that's where, unlike my short films where there's pretty much always a lot of dialogue, I suppose in Bay for Blood later in the film, there's more running around and less dialogue. But that's where, there's a shift for sure. And things that, the script kind of takes over early, and then sort of, all the tension builds and things get a little chaotic and crazy for the final third of the film.
Okay.
Welcome to Happy Corner. This project strives to make safe housing areas for stray cats at an affordable price. It's so easy to put together that even your children could have fun making one. Help keep cats and other animals safe with their own little Happy Corner homes. You can help this project become a reality by donating to the GoFundMe page. Happy Corner homes are a great way to show those animals in need it's okay to be happy.
And do you ever find yourself getting inspired or getting lost in imagination when you're like working and doing the post-production work and maybe even just like editing, and then you thought, oh, gee, I wonder what would happen if these two characters were in this situation, they just got married, yada, yada, and then all of a sudden you get a new idea?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that there have even been a few of the montage scenes in this film where I try something and I think, I don't know if that works. And then I have to sort of reset, try something a little different. But yes, for other films, I mean, I breathe this stuff like so many filmmakers. So there have absolutely been times where I'm watching one of my characters have a conversation and it maybe gives me an idea for another film. So I'd say more often than not, I've definitely gone through post for this feature film, and then maybe had an idea for my next feature, or I have a number of other ideas for features I want to make down the line and some animated films. So yeah, I definitely have gathered inspiration from working on this project.
Did you ever like consider like maybe being a creator, which where you have the chronicles of storytelling, like they're so like maybe they're just like different stories of the same universe, but which is kind of like
Oh,
realistic. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. And actually, the actress on this feature film, she was the one. She plays the mom, and I mean, I like to think they all, dug the scripts, were happy with their characters. She kind of brought it up a few times, like, oh yeah, you could, I could almost turn this idea. The film's called The Corridor Crossing, into I could have another. It doesn't even need to be a parallel universe theory, but another sort of almost, I don't want to say Black Mirror because I know that's an episode, but almost like I've created this world and I can have a few different characters in this kind of crazy sci-fi thriller horror. It is something I've thought of for sure. I don't know if it's something I'll actually do. I think I just get so fixated on the next idea. And after I make, even though Enter the Room and Bay for Blood, I actually think are somewhat similar films in ways, but generally, once I make one film, I try to do a bit of a 180. So after making this sort of like tight, dark, twisty, up-tempo sci-fi psychological horror, my next film, while it is going to, there's still going to be negative emotions. It's going to be, I'm going for slower, more methodical, wider shots, more upbeat. So yeah, I think that it just keeps things fresher to kind of switch things up like that. So maybe this corridor crossing universe I would revisit in the future, but I'd say for now I'm pretty content with how it ended, and to be determined in the future. But I could see myself not revisiting it in the long term and just kind of keeping it how it is.
Oh, okay. Because like it seemed like there was like I don't know why it was just popping in my head where it's like even if it were episodic, and it kind of reminded me like I think it's on Apple TV Plus. There's a they're making some interesting stuff, but I don't know if they could really keep up because it just seems so expensive to build. But a lot of the storytelling is like really, you know, very independently, interestingly good sometimes. And there was one that I think was called The Servant Girl or something like that. And it was like a very suspenseful horror. Baby comes back to life, and the redhead guy from the Harry Potter story coming in as the brother, and it's just like the drama and the suspense of just like this genre was like dead on, and just even the storytelling was there. I just thought maybe even though that's an episodic of this family going through things, I don't know. You just kind of give me this. You give me this vibe, bro, where you could have the same universe of all these different characters that somehow intertwine, but you wouldn't actually know it until until it comes full circle and there's like little cameos and Easter eggs and things like that in there. But it's all around the genre of suspense.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting idea for sure. And like I said, I don't know if I'll do it, but it's an idea I'll visit, and I could see it. I could see it working in the long run for sure. So
Yeah, well, you're still honing your craft, you've still like you've only been doing this for well, what, how many years would you say you've been doing it?
yeah, I mean, I've only been doing the festival stuff for a couple years. It's been on and off. So even though I started this filmmaking casually in my mid 20s, but that was more I more was in my late 20s, early 30s when I started doing it more seriously. And then I had a few year hiatus where I left insurance. I was freelance editing, loved it, struggling to pay the bills. So it's like I'm struggling to pay the bills. I probably shouldn't make another film. And then COVID happened. So
Yeah.
even though I've been making films for a number of years, there was a long enough pause where I feel more like I had a few year period here, then there was a long pause, and then I have had a few year period after. So definitely glad with how it's going, but always trying to learn and improve.
Nice, man. So yeah, like I'll be 38 in a few months. So you got some experience, you got some wisdom, and you got a lot more. I guess we got a lot more time since we could do this until technically we're, well, in the last year of our life. So we got plenty of time to figure it out.
Oh yeah, that was like I said to you, that's where I was so relieved when when I told you the story about when I had that dream. I'm thinking, oh God, you know, I didn't study film, but it's like, wait, I'm 21. Like I could be I could be three times that age and still, you know, knock on wood, but have a decent amount of time left. So it's that always makes me feel better. If I think I'm starting to get a little older, it's like, well, yeah, but as long as I'm doing this, I should be pretty happy overall, and hopefully I can keep doing this for a while. That's the plan. So
Well, I think you need wisdom along the way, especially like you said before, like yeah, developing leadership skills and being one. And when you're the commander on set, we depend on that leadership to get us through it.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think I underestimated how much work being a producer is. I don't, I'm not as passionate about it as being a director, but I'd say during my film productions, I probably spend the most time doing producer like things. And it can be so tough when it's like one little thing goes wrong on set and I have six people, you know, poking me on the shoulder, Harry, what are we going to do? It's like I got 40 other things to worry about. So it's definitely particularly having on the feature. But yeah, no, definitely. That's what I mentioned. I'm really happy that I got my MBA in business. That helped me be a leader for sure.
Good. And where'd you go to school?
So I went to Ithaca College in upstate New York, which
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mentioned the irony of they have a very reputable film school. Their business school is pretty good. I knew a couple people who were in the film school. It was pretty, or more than a couple. I had a couple of close friends who were in the film school. I did go to one of the screenings. I remember thinking like, oh, these films are like awesome. Um, but yeah, I never actually, I believe it was called the Parks Department. I never actually spent almost any time in there. So even though it was right there, it was not you know, I was in the business school taking my business classes. But yeah, had a blast though. So
What made you want to be more of a business major at the time? Was there like I don't know, somebody with a nice car that you liked and they gave you a suggestion?
it it was not connecting the dots that I should pursue something I'm passionate about, but that I should do something that's practical. I think I might have mentioned briefly getting it from my grandpa. And while I do agree that, like, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I got to pay my bills. But as opposed to when I worked in insurance, it's like, why not pay the bills doing something in video production? Because I actually like video production while pursuing the filmmaking. So yeah, it was not, it was not realizing like, oh, this is something I can pursue. Maybe it'll be more work. Maybe it won't pay as well, but I will be happier. It just hadn't entered my mind until my second semester, senior year of college.
I see. So it's like how much is enough in order for you to just be, you know, find joy in life and feel fulfilled in life?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess what would you call that? Content?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would say so.
It sounds like a good movie title of suspense.
Yeah, maybe in the future.
That could be the Chronicles of Content.
Yeah.
And I guess what else do I got? I don't want to say any regrets, but is there anything that you didn't get to do, you know, like in the last like 10 years that you wish you did do?
Yeah, actually. So, well, to start, and this might sound like kind of a cliche for a filmmaker. I wish, because I know some people, I wish I pursued this earlier, just because I'd be further along in my career. I actually didn't mention this before when I was telling you my sort of my story of how I became a filmmaker, but my two favorite projects I worked on in middle school and high school were actually video projects. In middle school, it was in sixth grade, I believe. Two of my friends and I, we made this. It was back before virtual reality was as popular. It was called the Paw 2001. And we basically took my PlayStation 2, we like put it upright, and then we put like one of my mom's like really old school alarm clocks on top of it. And
Yeah.
I had it was from this what was it? House of the Dead video game I had for one of my systems. We had one of those guns, and then we got something that it looked like a virtual reality headset. So we basically set it up like oh yeah, get the Paw 2001. And we'd first have a shot of like me shooting with the gun. And then they'd show a first person shot of like, I don't know. I think we used this game like Perfect Dark, this old Nintendo 64 game. And then one of my friends, like he had one of my toy swords. And then there was some like popular fighting game so anyway, that was an absolute blast to make. And then in high school, we made this parody on it was supposed to be Alexander the Great versus Darius, history project, but we put a Jerry Springer spin on it. And since
Geez.
I was Harry Springer, but I was dressed ridiculously. I spoke like a robot. And that was the most fun I ever had working on a project. People were just dying of laughter in the class. There are all these good inside jokes we had. Anyway, though, sorry if I was rambling slightly. So
No, actually, this is a very interesting concept, and I'm curious, like, if that's still like, is it available?
so why I've always the Harry Springer video, our video guy, he did all the editing, he did all the shooting. I think he still dabbles in it. He never saved the footage. This is where I always save all my footage. Well, first of all, even if privately, I have everything uploaded to Vimeo and YouTube, but then I also save all the footage on at least one drive, usually two. My feature film, I actually have everything on 4 drives just to be super safe, or 3 drives.
Back in the backup.
But yeah, basically him making that mistake, I was devastated because it was on YouTube and all of a sudden it was off YouTube. I was like, hey, like what happened to the video? And then he was like, oh yeah, sorry, I like didn't keep the footage backed up. But no, yeah, sorry. I'm trying to get to the point though why I was telling you about those 2 projects. I guess it was just that I had always it was something I always knew, like kind of deep down knew I wanted to do, and I just didn't put two and two together until later in school. And sorry if I didn't fully answer your question. I feel like that might have only partially.
I mean, like I'm trying to keep it casual and like when I ask like sometimes the questions just pop into my head. I try not to keep anything really too premeditated because I want to try to keep it more authentic. And I just figured, like when you get a little bit more experience down the road, and maybe some regrets pop up because you could have like just made just a different decision to just maybe advance yourself a little bit quicker, or you could have avoided something that happened where it's like this was totally avoidable, but then you gain wisdom from it, so it's not so much a regret, but it was just kind of a curiosity.
Right. No, I'm glad you brought that up. So yeah, what the point I was going into with that then was that I had wished that I had pursued film more seriously earlier. However, I would say one regret, although I feel at the end of the day, I'm doing the right thing. I think like many people who pursue something they're passionate about, sometimes they spend so much time on it that they neglect their relationships. They don't see their family, friends, etc. So I've definitely gone through periods where I'm kind of just a hermit, and like all my social interactions are like it's either doing the festivals, like I've gone on sprees where for 2 months I'm like not free for a weekend, or when I'm my film in production, sure, I'm like hanging out with fellow filmmakers and that's fun, but I'm not really my other relationships are being neglected a bit. So I'd say there's a side of me that regrets that, but I still in the future I would like to, well, I wish I started earlier, maybe just take a step back when I'm getting too sucked into the film stuff, and it's like take a weekend off if I have time to build on my relationships rather than just going 110% on the film stuff all the time. So I would say, and then the only other regrets, just technical filmmaking stuff, like every other filmmaker, I've made so many mistakes, but I think it's good because I make a mistake on one film, and as long as it's salvageable, I can use that for the next film. And I really feel like, especially with this feature film, The Corridor Crossing, there's still some things that need to be cleaned up. But some mistakes I made on Bay for Blood and Enter the Room, I kind of learned and moved, whether it was audio issue, music being too loud, picture quality issues, set design just doesn't look great. Something's out of focus. Just all these different little things. And it's like, I injected all that knowledge and expertise into this feature film, and while it's far from perfect, I feel stronger about this feature film than I do my shorts, even though I am happy with how the shorts came out.
Oh no, you got a lot to be proud of. The There's no better education than experience, and you're not going to get it by reading all the books. You got to really apply everything you know, and you got to find out, unfortunately, the hard way, everything you just didn't know.
Absolutely.
But once you know it, that's it, and then you can pass it on and just sort of like, well, ideally, I'm a big believer in mentorship and good karma because I feel like a lot of the information we get, it's not a personal property. It could be a gift for somebody to share those experiences,
Yeah, definitely.
I think anyway, that's it, but I got a weird head.
No, I understand.
So what's your next step, I guess, coming up? What any major plans going on? Or are you just going to focus more on production?
Yeah, it's just, I touched on it briefly. It's the festival stuff has calmed down a little, although I do have two coming up this weekend. So I got the one in New York City on Saturday, one in Jersey on Sunday. And then I believe I don't have any scheduled now until yours, of course, in January. But I got a couple more festivals going on this winter, spring. Then I'm really just going to kind of try to buckle down and get the script and shot list done for Incautious and get everything prepared. That's kind of in addition to festivals, that's kind of my top priority because, like I mentioned, I really want to get that film started. Next fall would be ideal. So
Excellent. All right, man. Well, we've been going for about an hour. Did you have any maybe any questions for me before we wrap things up?
No, not really. I mean, it's been great. It's been great chatting with you. I've loved being, thanks for having two of my films as part of the festival. I'll definitely submit more in the future. Yeah, and I mean, I guess just for everyone watching, thanks for checking out this video. And if anyone's interested to see any of my work, Google Harry Waldman, HarryWaldman, or Google Edgewater Film Productions, and my website and all my social media handles should show up shortly.
Okay, so your Instagram is the same handle?
Yeah, I mean it's the name is technically H Waldman 18, but I've just noticed doing Google searches if you Google Harry Waldman, it just seems to be the quickest and most convenient way to sort of see all my stuff. My website has links to all of my social media handles too. So which is edgewaterfilmproduction.com.
I think Enter the Room actually had the most views on the trailer playlist so far.
Yeah, I actually think interestingly enough, you're saying sorry, I was misreading you. Because I have it up on my Vimeo page. That is awesome. I got to check that out.
On the YouTube trailer on the playlist when we're promoting all the segments and the blocks and just starting to post them all up. Yeah, I think that one had the highest amount.
That is amazing news. I gotta take a look at that after this.
Well, you got a really good poster graphic I use it as a thumbnail, and I guess it really pulls you in. It's like enter the room, click, okay, here I am.
Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah, my graphic designer was awesome. He pretty much got it in one try, which has not always been my experience with graphic designers. He just like me, he's so passionate about just about designing posters, drawing. He had a real knack for it. So he was great, and I hope to work with him again on a future project.
Oh, you just stay in touch. When you guys click well and you mesh well, so just keep it going. I don't want to say milk the cow dry, but build on top of it,
Absolutely.
Well, it's been really great, Harry. So those are your socials, that's your website. That's how everybody could actually get into you. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. Get in contact with you. I definitely need some lunch. I could feel it now.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrapped up, I always actually end every episode with a segment called The Right Words at the Right Time. And in my early days, I was reading this book while on film set or in rehearsal or off to the side. It was just a book. And it was called The Right Words at the Right Time. And it was this collective of interviews of all these household names that you would know today, whether it was Shaquille O'Neal, Mel Brooks, the Clintons. It could have been anybody with a household name was actually interviewed in this book. But once upon a time, nobody really knew who these people were. They were just, still are regular people just like us, but, they did something. Or they accomplished something which kind of made them stand out in society type of a thing. So they were all asked this one question, and it really occurred to me that everybody I talked to, It's one of those things where it's like, I knew that guy when I knew her before she made it big. So I like to ask this one in particular question to everybody. So, Harry, my question was, has anybody ever given you the right words at the right time that have always just stuck with you, that have gotten you through everything that you've ever gone through? Like it got you through thick and thin. And if not, is there anything or any words that you would like to share for somebody listening?
Yeah, so for someone else giving me the right words, off the top of my head, I can't think of something specific. I would say that the number one thing that comes to mind is that when I first told my dad that I was going to pursue filmmaking, he actually, because I think I mentioned briefly, he's an artist and an art teacher. Um, he never had a, kind of standard full-time job. And he's the nicest guy ever. So he was never going to put too much pressure on me, but he kind of started telling me, hey, like you like film so much, maybe you could be a film professor. I was kind of retorted, yeah, but I don't have the background to teach. Anyway, when I told him that I wanted to pursue film and I was a little nervous and didn't know how much I would make. I don't remember his exact words, but it was just so reassuring. Basically just being fully supporting me, letting me know that I was doing the wrong thing. And I think something along the lines of don't obsess over the end game, just focus on the process. If you are passionate about what you do, you pursue it full throttle, treat others well, don't expect too much. Good things more often than not will happen. It was something along the lines of that. And that was very reassuring to me because I was in a pretty vulnerable position. Even though I was excited to pursue film, I was a little worried. And I think that if somebody gave me the wrong advice at that time, I still like to think I would have pursued it, but maybe not. So that was, I'll never forget that. We were eating at a buffet and we were outside and I told him and he was just he was very supportive. So that's I would say quietly one of the defining moments of my life. Really, really good moment that I'll never forget.
Oh man, well said, man. Very wise words. And
Yeah.
no, that's really nice, especially for a good father-son moment, you know?
Absolutely. And sorry, just to slightly piggyback off that, I know you mentioned, because I didn't have the exact words, if someone was asking me, one of my mottos, and of course, like, take this with, I don't know about a grain of salt, but one of my mottos is spend as few seconds each day doing things you don't want to be doing. Now, granted, if there's somebody who is in need that you really care about, and it's not the number one thing on your radar, of course, your family, spouse, significant other, close friend, of course, you should, do what you can to support and help them. But I'm saying, barring anything kind of crazy or specific like that, it's just that I remember being younger when I worked in insurance, when I studied business, and I just would spend all this time studying or learning about things I didn't want to be learning, and even just spending time around friends who they might have been good people, but I didn't really want to be here, and I was there for the wrong reasons, whether just because, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this, I'm supposed to be following this path that everyone else is following, and I think like a lot of filmmakers, I've become more of a maverick, and just that over the years, particularly after college, I still try to be, a good friend and everything, good to my parents and sister, but focusing on my own needs first. And I think it's definitely a bit selfish, or definitely selfish, but I'm a much happier person because of it. So, and I think for someone pursuing a field, whether it's film or something else really competitive, I do think, sometimes you don't want to step on other people's throats, but be respectful, treat others the way you want to be treated, but also, worry about yourself and do what you can in order to get ahead and do the things you love and you're passionate about. So that's something I would just, tell somebody who maybe was in my shoes, but 10 years ago.
Hmm. No, I get it. I know what you mean.
But
No, your
yeah,
words are true. It's kind of like that airplane crash scenario. It's like don't put a mask on somebody else until you have a mask on yourself first.
right.
Yeah, just to sum it up.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Well, congratulations, man. This was an awesome conversation. I'm really looking forward to meeting you. So I know when we get a chance, we'll go over to Sack's place if you're still around, get to talk a little bit more while the other segments are playing, but looking forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to being back at the festival for sure.
Thank you so much, man. I'll let you know when the podcast comes out. Tell your family, tell your friends, see the trailer, share the segments, take advantage of those discounts for Christmas, guys. If you're listening, if you go on our website, www.astoryafilmmakers.org, you're going to see the Triborough Film Festival. You're going to click on tickets and you're going to see the trailers. You're going to pick whatever film segment you want to watch. And don't forget that promo code AFC 50/50 for a Christmas 50% discount. Take advantage. And if not, we'll see you during the Triborough Film Festival Season 3 at the Zucker Theater, as well as the Thespis Theater, and hopefully guaranteed the Culture Lab for the Astor Awards ceremony in February. And that's all, folks. You have yourself a great day there, Harry. It was great to talk to you. I'll catch you later.
Thanks, you too.
Ciao for now.
See ya.
Ciao.